Hola, amigos. Welcome back to the
TTYL podcast with your host. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Adrian. And this is our Halloween edition, which we are clearly not dressed up for.
Wait, you're not?
Wait.
Oh, wait, you're in PT. Scrubs.
No, I'm a doctor. What do you mean?
I'm
Dressed up as a fuck boy.
Yeah. Should I turn this around?
Do you look good in a backward hat?
No.
Can you try just for 1 second? It's okay. You look
I feel
adorable-ish. We're back with another episode. What are we talking about today, Sarah?
Today, we're talking all about God or dog, because God spelled backwards is dog.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I guess like in our stages of our lives,
Mm-hmm.
is spirituality important? And a bigger question, do we need God?
Yes.
Which will be an interesting conversation.
Yes.
This will be very raw
Raw dog.
and
Or
unprocessed.
raw God. Okay, sorry.
I love it when you just spiral and just commentate with no end.
And it's the worst when I am doing that on top of when you're talking, because when
Yeah.
I'm editing it, I can't isolate mine and take it out.
No,
like, I
no,
either
no,
just have to
no.
take the whole thing out.
I think you
or
should just
keep
leave
the
it.
whole thing.
It adds to the vulnerability.
Uh-huh.
How many books of the Bible can you name in the
Oh my gosh, in order or
Wait,
just in general?
what is it? New Testament. I almost called
been a while.
I almost called a new generation from the new generation.
From Gen Z?
Peter was like, I'm too cool for Moses.
Please. Oh gosh, does it have to be in order?
I don't know, just for fun. I'm just curious.
Like John, Mark, Luke,
Yes.
Matthew, Mark. I already said Mark.
Mark.
Phil. No, that's not one.
Philemon.
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 But is that second? Wait, yeah.
What?
Colossians 1, Colossians 2.
There's Colossians 1 and 2. Oh,
Yeah,
there's
I think
Colossians.
so. Wait. Uh-oh.
You can tell we're not very...
I don't...
It's been a while
When's
since we
the
opened
last
up
times that you read
the Bible at church with my CG.
Okay, no, like on your own.
I was doing pretty good 2 months ago. Like around my exam period, per usual.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does like the verse of the day shit on the Bible app count?
Did you read the actual like passage?
I read the passage, but I don't do like the stuff afterwards because it's like
Oh yeah.
the passage pops up and then it's like meditate on this and then pray about this. I'm just
yeah.
like I go shower
It's like,
and then
for
pray in
more
the shower.
insight,
Yeah.
read this passage. Yeah.
And it's like this random person that like this. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. I'm not shaming you. It just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I think the last time I like actually opened up the Bible itself was probably over a year ago. Wait, I don't think I have since moving to New York.
But you were in Indiana?
At some point. I actually don't remember when I stopped. I mean, maybe I would do like devos or like whatever, but not like the actual Bible
Wait,
itself.
I see. Because like I guess at CG you were still doing like that format of
Yeah, but CG
Bible
doesn't
study.
really count, I feel like.
No,
Oh,
that's
no,
what I
sorry.
meant.
It
That's what I
counts. It
meant.
counts. But that's not what I'm asking. Yeah.
Right. Like when have you like done your own like self
Yeah.
study?
Okay, I think before we get into it, we should give a debrief on like where we are in our journeys. And also just for those of you that don't know, I think we would classify ourselves as Christian.
I was about to ask you that. Do you
Okay.
classify yourself as a Christian? But you do?
Yes. Should we do like brief?
Yeah, let's just do the whole
journey
shebang.
And then like just where we are now, kind of. I would say the peak of my Christian career was in college. Like I became a Christian basically freshman year of college. Went to like church and small group and everything. Was pretty involved with Adrian in our campus ministry called Cornerstone. Shout out Cornerstone. My peak was probably like sophomore, junior, maybe kind of senior year. But then once people graduated from our senior year, and then I didn't have as much of a community. Well, actually, my pharmacy grade had a lot of Cornerstone people, so it was okay. But I feel like the community as a whole kind of decreased for me just because I wasn't as close to like the underclassmen. That's when it kind of started going down. But then also like COVID during all that also threw a wedge in things because of lack of community. Basically now, like after moving to New York, I have been in a constant low. Like I think I've experienced a period of time where I just didn't pray or like was not active in my faith at all, but I still believed. I think like I think my baseline is that I still believe in God, but I just didn't like the religious practicing wasn't as prominent, and like I think I would still try to go to church as much as I could, but other than that I feel like spiritual conversations kind of died down. Definitely personal practice died down, and where I'm at now is still kind of in that low, but I think I'm like open to practicing and pursuing my faith more, but I haven't felt the draw,
like conviction.
in a way. Yeah. Where
are you open to not be a Christian?
That's a good question. I think at this point, no. Like I think at this point I still do believe. Yeah, I still believe there's a God, and we can get into that later too. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that for now.
By the way, if you know what church we go to, please don't reveal that. Right?
Why?
I don't know. I mean, just for like personal reasons. Like this is our podcast with our opinions, so I don't ever want like anyone to see this and be like, oh, this is what the church thinks of
that's
like
true, yeah.
whatnot. Like I'm new to the church that like we're going to, and like Sarah's been going for like a year, so like by no means do we represent the majority. If anything, we're like
for sure.
the minority.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, just the vibe of our podcast is we're kind of like in our mid-20s trying to figure things out, right? And God is just an enigma. I grew up in a Christian family. My mom and dad are hella religious. My brother is hella religious. I was hella religious. So then I joined Cornerstone, where I met Sarah, where we did a lot of Christian things, like become small group leaders.
And non-Christian things.
And non-Christian things, like play board games. And shoplift. Just kidding. And then, yeah, we were pretty invested up until, I guess, senior year, where that's where Sarah stopped connecting with the younger people.
I guess after senior year.
Wait,
I think I was still a small group leader senior year.
Yeah, I was your co-leader.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, was that after? Okay.
No, I was your co-leader.
Yeah.
And then I came to New York, and I basically went through a phase where I didn't like do any Christian stuff for 3 years. But same thing as Sarah, I still like in my deepest, darkest days of taking exams, I would be like, God, I didn't study. Please help me. Like, please.
Oh, hey,
please.
oh God.
Hey man, remember me? I guess like right now where I'm not in school anymore, I have more time. Okay, honestly, a part of me not doing Christian stuff was the lack of time I had, and the fact that campus is so far away from church. Yes, I could have explored other churches, but also like I know to some degree the church that we go to now, I did feel more at home. Yeah. So I didn't want to like just change or leave. But altogether, like now that I'm not a student anymore and I'm working, I'm trying to be more involved in that community. We're both a part of like community groups or like small groups. I don't know what terms people use these days, and we're just doing our best, right?
Really are.
Doing our best. Cool.
Yeah.
We can just try to tackle the question, I guess, piece by piece. I was wondering if you had any like preliminary thoughts. Do you think we need God?
Like when I think about this, there's the theological way, which I don't think I'm qualified to explain or tackle, which I feel like sometimes I feel the pressure of like, oh, I'm a Christian, I should be able to, if people ask like, who is God? Like, do we need God? Like those kinds of questions, I feel pressure to be like, oh yeah, I should be able to, pull up scripture or like be able to explain why, but I can't and I don't.
Wait, when you talk to people like that and they do that, does that like bother you, or is it more so like it affirms you? Like when someone's like if you're ever like, what is a common question? Like, should I drink alcohol or not? And then someone just like whips out 3 verses, 2 from the Old Testament, 1 from the New Testament. Are you like, wow, I'm inspired to not drink? Or you're like, ick?
No, I'm like, it's hard because it's like, okay, sure, that's what the Bible says. And like, I know that maybe, but also I feel like a big thing with learning about the word in the Bible, it's like you need to understand the context of things. You need to understand the context of the society, of the characters, like their motives, their drives. So it's like so hard to take a verse out of context and just apply it to any situation like verbatim. So that's why I feel like sometimes when people just bring up verses and don't add connotation to it, it's hard to just be like, yeah, like I'm so moved by that. I think verses can help support arguments, but not stand alone or all the time. Yeah. Are you like on the ick side or the motivational?
I think it depends on how they deliver it. I think verses should never be the reason why you do anything, but there always has to be like a component of, I guess, their personal side to it. Like, I think it's more of a red flag if you're just reading and regurgitating and not really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's so much more than just like Bible verses, you know?
Yeah. I also feel like a big part of faith is your heart and your intention. It's like you could be doing something completely quote unquote wrong, or like maybe not a way that the Bible. Okay, this is tricky. Again, with everything that we say, grain of
This whole thing is
salt.
blasphemy.
Like, I feel like we're trying to be careful with our words, what we say in this episode, but sometimes something might slip or it just might not
If they're
be.
tuning in, this is what they're going to get.
That's true.
Like, if you've made it past the introduction, you're going to hear a bunch of shit.
Careful. You know what you're getting into.
Leave right now if you don't want to be...
Hi. I feel like a lot of practicing faith is your heart and your intentions. So it's like maybe if you know something or you feel convicted for a certain way, then like acting on that and like keeping in line with that conviction maybe is good, because maybe that's what draws you closer to God in your relationship and your faith. But say if like you are acting differently than maybe another Christian, and maybe like one Christian is quote unquote right. I don't think that, I don't know, it's hard to compare because maybe that person just like doesn't know about something or whatever, and they don't mean to. It's just like, you know, maybe it's one thing if you know and then you also don't, but that's also like, you can't judge people's faith and walk like that.
Wait, I want to say one piece about that before we jump back to the original question of do we need God?
Yeah.
We can also talk about this maybe a little later on. But like one of my biggest religious trauma thingies is that I feel like human society, going back to what you said, like it feels like we're trying to be united under like one banner of like what Christianity should be. So especially with the whole like denominations things, and then when you put in a system of like pastor, small group leader, you establish like a hierarchy, which I don't think is always beneficial. Like you said, everyone's walks are different and personal, and like my conviction may not be the same for your conviction. So I do think like that system isn't like, I don't know. That's kind of why I didn't really like mess with Christianity back then. And I'm still very wary right now too. But
wait, what's your issue with like the hierarchical system, and what would be in your eyes what the ideal is?
I felt too judged or not accepted by like to be like different or to be curious. So like, for example, like our old church was like the Korean Southern Baptist Church. And it just feels like any moment we wanted to be, like we wanted answers, anything outside of the Bible just was like invalid all of a sudden. So instead of like, oh, like why yada yada yada, I guess a big thing for us is like the alcohol stuff in Cornerstone.
Yeah.
I mean, like we can talk about that in depth another time, but it's just like, to keep it simple, why can you drink alcohol? Because the Bible says so. And like,
because it's like,
that was it.
Also, it was like during college times, it was because we were underage.
Yeah.
So
no,
like
I totally get that.
But then why can you jaywalk? And then it's also like no sin is greater than the other.
Yeah, it's just like a slew of things. And at the end of the day, to me, it's like to maintain like an image of being like holy and like separate, which is
not sway others. Or
exactly.
Like
No,
that,
totally. And oh my God, I have so many like, I guess like religion. I don't know what you want to call it, like tidbits or like thoughts about this.
Trauma.
It could be. I mean, that is what like kind of sparked my like 3-year hiatus from Christianity.
Yeah.
But sorry, going way back to when you were saying about you can answer it theologically or like what's the alternative?
The alternative is answering based on my experience, which maybe theologically might be more applicable to more people rather than like my own experience, you know, and how God has shaped my life. I'm the expert on that because it's my life.
Right.
So I think that's all I can speak to. But I mostly just say that I think that's fine for our purposes, but I just wanted to say that to give a distinction to like people that are listening to that. I don't want them to expect factual evidence, to back up certain things. So I don't know if you feel like you have that background to talk about.
Not even that though. I think so. You're answering like you think we need God, right?
Yeah. I'm
actually gonna come out and say I don't think we need God.
Whoa. Okay, like, this will be interesting.
And I'm like 100% grounded on this.
Okay.
I think there's a difference between like God existing and acknowledging that and like needing God. Because I think a big reason why I stayed so far away from Christianity these last 3 years, part of it was like the religious trauma, but a part of it was also experiencing that these friends. So for the first time when I came to New York, I didn't really have like Christian friends besides like, you know, like Annie and like here and there. But like 90% of my friends were like Christian. But yet they had such fulfilling and amazing lives. So like for the Bible, I guess like as a Christian, you learn like, oh, like God gives you good things. God like blesses you, blah 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 blah. I think to some degree God also blesses people who aren't Christians. Like God also gives good things to those who aren't Christians. So then in the back of my head I was like, do we really like need God? You know, like I'm sure you can echo that sentiment too. Like you have a lot of like other non-Christian friends who are still like having amazing lives, and in fact like even better people than some like quote unquote Christians, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I think you don't need God, but it'd be nice to have God in your life. That's how I would change the phrasing.
Okay. Let me redact my statement.
No, but yeah.
No, yeah, I think no, that's a good point. And I think like if you haven't figured out my patterns by now, I can play devil's advocate, or I can just like think on like both sides. So I think as of right now, I don't want to say like my answer is yes. I think you bring up a good point. But I think, yeah, throughout the conversation, like after flushing out both sides and stuff, where I land or where we land. Actually, no, I totally agree. I think everyone needs a concept. So whether that is God, whether that is spirituality, or just like something that's bigger than them as a person.
Right. Like it could be like family or like love or like.
Yeah. Astrology or I don't know. Just
like, but also I did meet a couple people who don't like believe in anything, and they're actually just like drifting through life, which is also, again, just very interesting to me because my whole life has been like, Adrian, you're going to serve God by playing piano. I'm like,
I'm going to glorify God.
Big bet. You're going to glorify God
eating
by
this meal.
No, literally.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I just guess my experience at grad school is very eye-opening to me on that end, at least.
Like not everything you do is like necessarily for God.
Or it's even like, for example, like I think some people need that like higher calling, and some people don't. Like they're just satisfied with being present, being able to like wake up every day, and one day just dying and just fading away, and like that's completely fine, you know. But I just want to re-echo that I don't think you need God, but it'd be nice to have God in it, because I think of it like parents, right? Like we're kind of at the point in our life where we don't need our parents,
but it's nice to have them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you need to put it in perspective. I think God loves you, but at the end of the day, He also recognizes that it's our choice to choose Him. But He's still gonna like, kind of like parents, like they're gonna like protect you and like love you no matter like what you do. But at the end of the day, if you don't choose them, like what are they gonna do? That's how I see my relationship with God right now. It's a lot to process.
It is a lot to process.
I don't know if you feel this way, but do you ever feel like you were fed the narrative that you need God to like have your life be complete?
Like, was that a narrative that was like pushed on me?
Yeah.
Kind of. It was, I guess, like the narrative that I've always learned was being a Christian is a lifestyle. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Like everything you do is for Him, through Him, from Him. Like every interaction you have, with other people, whether they're Christian or not, is somehow like God considered. And yeah, He's just like everywhere and touches everything.
Yeah, no,
or
totally.
Just like the subconscious is constantly like on Him.
Yeah.
I think I've also been experiencing, like after I moved to New York, when I maybe didn't feel as close to God, or like was not that strong in my faith, I did start experiencing life quote unquote without God, like not having Him touch every single thing of my life. And I will say, yeah, like I made it through fine. I did my coaching, but even now I'm like, yeah, I'm still not really fully in my life still, but having something bigger than myself to lean on or feel a part of or feel seen, taken care of in that way is really nice.
Like comforting almost.
Yeah. So, I mean, that kind of goes with, like, it's nice to have.
Okay, but, like, I'm also, like, kind of playing devil's advocate, but because this is a very, like, real experience for me. So, like, you're, like, single now, right? And then I was, like, healing and shit.
Yeah.
I'm, like, talking to you about, like, oh, you have to learn how to, like, self-love and, like, self-care and self-proficient.
Yeah.
I felt like at some point I had gone to the point where I'd be able to fulfill myself without like God. Does that kind of make sense? Because all the things you're talking about, like I want something that's like kind of guides me. I want something to like nurture and love me in my community and whatnot. Like I felt like I had to reach that point by myself. Like what drives me is myself.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
That's why like I feel like my relationship now with God means so much more to me than it did in the past. Because in spite of, like, I guess loving myself, I still want to, like, love God even more.
Was God a part of your healing process?
Hell no. And, I think it's so interesting, though. Like, therapy, a lot of that is you.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. Like, you go to the church, I feel like there's no space for you to exist. You go to the secular world, there's no space for God to exist, So I think it's up to us to kind of find that balance.
Yeah, I feel like that was one of the really exhausting things about being a Christian, because it never felt like I could be Christian enough in a way.
No, I completely
Even though
agree.
like that's so arbitrary, and it's like I just feel like there shouldn't be that pressure in general sometimes. And that's why I feel like for myself, I found a cadence in my faith that I feel comfortable with, and I just feel like I don't want to do anything out of peer pressure or like God pressure.
Yeah.
I want to show up organically in my faith how I can show up, and
Yeah.
I think maybe God would appreciate that, like where I am, you know. It's all part of the life journey.
I wonder if that's also just like part of it is the narrative that like Christianity puts out sometimes. Like, I need you to convert now.
Yeah.
Like, come to this baptism class now. Like,
you need to be saved now.
literally, it's like, oh, like if you're not, oh my God, like the church we go to, like if you're not a member yet, like when the communion comes around, like please don't partake, blah, 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 blah. But you could be one day, you know, here's members class, yada,
wait.
yada, yada.
Okay, kind of a side quest real quick. Do you have to be a member of that church to take communion?
No.
Okay, but you just have to believe.
You have to be like a Christian to take communion.
Okay.
Which,
Do
okay.
you have to be baptized?
I think baptism is just a symbolic, like to the public that you're a Christian, but no, I don't think you have to be baptized.
Okay.
It could be just like a denomination thing too.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like the unspoken pressure that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like God pressure, people pressure, pastor pressure, you know?
Yeah, that was really tiring. This doesn't feel like a healthy faith relationship.
Completely agree.
Yeah, so then I kind of pulled away a little bit, and now I'm kind of on my own schedule, or like my own relationship with God. And I think one of the things that I feel comfortable with though is that maybe, yeah, like I know I'm not at my peak, or like I know I'm not doing the most I can in my faith, but I'm like honest with God and other people about it, because I don't want to like pretend that I'm at a point where I'm not. I would hope that other Christians are like receptive to that vulnerability, me being honest of where I'm at, and like not judging me for that.
On a bigger level, I hope that people would just come forward and just be like honest about like we're just having a hard time like getting to that level of like godliness or holiness that the church asks us to be, you know?
Yeah.
I think there just needs to be more unity on that end, that we're all just struggling, period.
Yeah.
You know?
And whatever, it could come in so many different forms too.
Yeah. Versus like, again, I love my church and I love my CG. It's just like sometimes church does feel like just for the holy, you know?
Yeah. When we were signing up for CG, I actually was debating. I was like, should I not sign up? Because I don't feel like I deserve to be there, because I'm not that strong in my faith right now. And which is a crazy thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, looking back, I'm like, that's so sad that I thought that, because our CGs are super competitive because there's not that many spaces and there's always like a wait list. So I didn't want to take a spot that like, you know, somebody else could have taken.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
But I was sitting next to a friend and I told her that, and she was like, girl, no, like, you deserve a spot that, like, you don't have to be at a certain point in order to deserve to be in a CG. Like, that's the reason you join a CG, is to like grow no matter where you are. So that was reassuring.
It's like on that note, like I just wish we'd have like more real pertinent conversations to like, I don't know, I guess our mid-20s or like what we're struggling through. Like I feel like, again, church is great. Like I think the sermon series that we're doing right now, well, I haven't been in 2 weeks because I've been getting a perm and sick and stuff. But like if we could just have like a real like, okay, this is churches all across the board. I feel like people like almost code switch when they enter CG. Or no, not even CG, just like small group in general, even in college. And then once it's over, it's just like
La-di-da.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I just wish we could have a more like real authentic experience.
Yeah, it kind of feels like when you cuss in CG, it's like more, whoa, I just did that, oopsies.
Oh my God, I said shit.
I think I cussed my first CG the first time, and I was like, oh, what the heck? But then like someone else did too, and I was like, oh, okay, we
Yeah,
chillin'.
it's like everyone's like feeling each other out, like kind of where is everybody, you know? I think this is just like our spirituality in general. Like this is kind of where we're at, you know? But I do want to ask you, like genuinely, do you think Christianity has bettered your life? And then I also guess like the world. Like what is your perspective on that?
My life for sure. So some things I think it's helped me with is, one, not being afraid of death. Actually, we're working on that still.
I'm okay dying. Like on God.
Actually, maybe I'm more afraid of death because now I'm like, you know, if everything that they say is true in the Bible, then will I be...
Oh, like you think you're going to go to hell?
Well, no, because, okay, the criteria is you just believe, right?
Yeah.
So I believe. And I think that's that. But like low-key, yeah, thinking about what hell is like and how they described it, I'm like, that is so scary.
My God.
Maybe. Okay. Anyway, so that's one thing. High-key, just like how I interact with people, how I think about people, how I've been able to build patience, unconditional love, those kind of things are so transformed by my faith, because I don't know if anyone really, maybe some people more so than others, but like in general, I think it's really hard for humans to, for themselves, to just have the sheer willpower to love people when it's hard. Like,
yeah, because it's
obviously,
limited.
yeah, like obviously it's easy to love people that are easy to love, or like easy to love people in moments that are easy to love them. But when shit hits the fan, or like when someone's being annoying, or like whatever it is, like where do you have the bandwidth to love someone like that? Like why do you have to be patient? Like you don't. Like you can just do whatever, be mean to them, ignore them, cut them off, whatever. But I think with faith, and what I've learned is, yes, one, to be more patient, to, I think like grace was also a big part of my journey too, like giving myself grace, and then because of that I can also give other people grace a lot easier. But I think because like one of the biggest things in Christianity, I feel like, is like God's love, right? And like how he has an abundance of love to like pour into me. So then
You sound like a smog bleeder
I
right
know
now.
it's showing.
It's bringing like flashbacks. She's so inspiring.
And then like I can have, like, it's not my love that I can give to people, it's like I have God's love to like borrow in a way, or like filter through me.
I think that's nice. You still like are cognizant of these things and still like, I guess, call upon these things, even like you who like are self-proclaimed like kind of a little
like lowish. Yeah,
away,
I think those are some of the things that I really hold dear to my heart.
That's so nice.
What would you say?
It's hard to say.
For yourself?
I would have been a better person. Again, everything is so subjective.
Yeah, and you would never know.
I would never know. I don't really have an answer for this, because I think it just goes back to that point in my life where I feel like, I guess like Christianity defines like good as, you know, Jesus. But also, again, going back to, I've met good non-Christians.
Yeah.
And they are also full of love. I guess I've never been in a scenario where I have to see if they have unconditional love.
Which they probably, like, yeah, people do have.
Yeah,
too, yeah.
It's just like, yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm just curious about your perspective on that.
I think in terms of like if it's benefited the world, you know that there's that whole argument about like
Christianity created the metric system. And Christmas.
There are quote unquote good, whatever good and bad means, but like quote unquote there are good people that are not Christians, and there are maybe bad people that are Christians, or like whatever. And then the argument's like, well, which came first? Christian principles that set the standard for what good is, or is it just natural human nature to have some qualities of goodness?
Like you're talking about like morality at this point, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, morality is a deep topic.
So yeah, I, again, theologically can't really
Okay,
express
fuck
anything,
theology.
but
Do you want your next boyfriend to be a Christian or not?
oh my gosh, that's actually such a good question.
I know, that is a good question.
You know what?
What?
Kind of thought about this a little bit this week.
Because you're healing.
I'm healing. This week actually was so rough. It
Hey,
was so rough.
You're on the rise. Anger. What are the
Yeah,
5 stages
I'm in-
of grief? Like
Denial, anger, something, and then depression.
And then you're healed.
and then
Oh,
acceptance.
depression.
But there's
Oh.
one between.
Fucking around.
Oh, it's
Being a hoe.
Oh, what's it called? Compromising or something? Like, I'll take responsibility for the breakup. Like, it was
Oh,
my
like it was
fault.
both their faults.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
like,
God.
it was good. Maybe I shouldn't have broken up. Like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I got you. Sorry, continue.
Anyways, I think my answer right now is, you know, that whole thing about like not being unequally yoked or something? Like, I think it would feel weird if they completely weren't a Christian. But I think I'd also feel weird if they were like super, super Christian.
Like you want to find, yeah, like it still goes back. Do you want to find someone who's like equally on your
Yeah.
spiritual level?
But then at the same time, like both people could change over time. Like a non-Christian could become, a Christian could become non.
But even like Christianity apart, that's like anything in a relationship. Like
That's true.
they could be shorter one day.
Okay. They just like lose 6 inches.
6 inches is a lot. I mean, no, 6 inches is very small.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like relationship fluidity.
Yeah. I mean, I think overall, yeah, I would want them to be Christian.
That's nice.
To what extent, IDK.
We'll see.
So I actually have a question for you.
Oh shit.
And this is kind of a follow-up on a conversation that we had offline. But
Yeah, so life exists outside the podcast.
yeah, actually, apparently.
In fact, our better episodes are off the podcast.
That's true. We'll literally be talking for like 3 hours and be like, we should have recorded that. So one time, Adrian and I were talking, and Rebecca, this was like months ago actually. So I don't know if you still think this way, but we were just kind of like talking about, I think like you and Reb were bringing up a perspective on friendships.
Is this gonna cancel me?
We'll let the viewers decide.
God.
We can also take
Our
this out.
103 viewers.
Yeah. I think the context of this makes a little bit more sense given that we're in New York and we have a lot of circles of friends that obviously we're very, very grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
But it does in itself bring another challenge where you only have so much time outside of work.
Right.
And you have a relationship. You only have so much time to prioritize certain people in certain groups.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. And so I remember one time we were talking, and a perspective that was brought up was like, oh, like your friendship should bring value to your life and you should be able to bring value to their life. And in a friendship, if that's not really happening, then you should be able to deprioritize that friendship, or not necessarily leave it, but just like, you know, prioritize other friendships that you think have more value. I guess my question kind of is like, do you believe that? Because maybe I'll give my spiel first.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I was reflecting on this. I guess that was my first time like thinking about friendships that way. I can see that, how like you do want to bring value to other people's life and vice versa. But at the same time, I feel like that's a lot of pressure, because like if one day I'm just in a bad mood or like I'm sad or disconnected, then I would feel like pressure to be like, oh, I'm not being silly goofy, like I'm not bringing what I usually bring value-wise to my friendship. They're not going to like me. They're not going to enjoy my presence that day. And so I feel like I have to be constantly on or something.
We should do like monthly like feedback reports. Your friendship grade this month, B-.
F.
Wasn't funny enough on these days.
I've decided that like my perspective on that actually is like, I don't think that perspective sits well with me because of that pressure. To me, it relates back to God's unconditional love. He died for me. He loves me despite everything that I am. Like, he doesn't love me because of my strengths and what I give to him or what I give to other people. He loves me, yes, because of that, and because of my weaknesses, my flaws, and everything. That's the kind of love that I strive to show to my friends. Like, I want to know them as a whole, their weaknesses, what they're insecure about, obviously their strengths and like what they bring to my friendship.
Yeah.
But I cherish the quote unquote weaknesses as well. And I don't think of them any lesser, but it's just like, I know you as a whole and I really, really appreciate that. So that's why I think I disagree with that value-based mindset.
So that's actually an amazing question, because I think that's one thing I really wrestled with in my theories at Columbia. Let's put it like this. I'm still trying to discover what having a friend means. I don't know if it's a cultural difference because I'm a fob. I don't know if it's religious reasons, or I don't know if it's just like I'm just not like in tune, like my EQ is low. Could be that. But I think I really wrestled with that in grad school, where I feel like I had friends, but then like when I wasn't putting enough effort into them, they would call me like a bad friend, or I didn't prioritize the relationship. So from that experience, what I'm gathering is that either I think the unconditional love thing, which I fully love and support, is not possible with like in real life applications. Maybe it's just like a partner kind of thing. Okay, I will say this. Again, I'm not saying it's a religious difference thing, but I will say back in college, I did feel more supported almost, but like more so on that unconditional love thing. Because I know like just like doing the church thing with you, we were doing so much shit. Like sometimes we wouldn't show up for the meeting. Sometimes we were like on top of that, like exams, and you're trying to get into pharmacy school. I'm trying to get to Columbia. Yeah. But I did feel really supported. I truly think our friend group in college, we all like loved each other to some like what our platonic version that is. Our peak years were like, we had a lot of couples in the friend group. Our friend group was like big, but I felt very supported, like no matter what I was going through. Yeah. But coming to New York in grad school, I felt a little isolated, I think. I think like when there were days I didn't show up for people, I think people assumed that like I just didn't care about the friendship, which I can see how it was received like that. But also in the moment, like I was going through exams, I was going through like long distance, I was going through like not going to church anymore, I was like fighting with my parents. Like it's just so many things. Again, I'm not making like excuses for why I couldn't show up for my friends. It's just I noticed no. Like I just noticed that there is a bit of a difference. So this is actually interesting. I believe in unconditional love, but only for my partner. I think friendships are still very conditionally loved. Interesting. But I'm still wrestling with that aspect of like relationships and people. Yeah. Because I can totally appreciate the other side, where it's like, if one day, for example, I'm showing you love, I'm like making you food every day, I'm like washing your dishes and whatnot, and you just blatantly don't like give a fuck.
Okay, yeah.
See, like I can understand that aspect.
Yes. I can also understand that. Obviously, we're just all in our journeys where we are. So, like, both of our journeys are so valid. And it's not even saying that I want to be unconditionally loving to well, like, yes, but like, maybe how I unconditionally love friends is different per friend too. Like some friends maybe are lower maintenance, or maybe I'm not as close to them per se.
Right.
But so it's not like I'm getting them treats every day or something, or like
Yeah,
a
yeah,
treat
yeah,
every
yeah.
week. It's like it kind of is still like, okay, what you give is kind of what I give in terms of like the effort and energy. But at the end of the day, if you came to me with something, I would be there for you.
Right. How I phrased it before might have been wrong. Like they have to bring value to your life. I think they have to put an effort to your life. But I guess like right now, it's like differentiating between like love and like effort. Because you could argue that you would spend a lot of time with someone you love.
But also, I feel like relationships are very different. That's what I've also been learning in my healing process.
Yeah.
They're actually very different. Like you can get a lot of things from your friendships. There's just this level of care, obligation, and attention to a partner that you don't necessarily have to give to a friend. So those things I feel like are a little bit more reserved in terms of how you show love. Despite that, I feel like there's still an underlying layer of unconditional love for friends. What you were saying kind of reminds me of the friendships that I've made in New York so far.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying all my friendships. I think there are very few friendships that I've made in New York that feel very genuine and kind of have made it to that point where it's like, okay, like I know maybe we don't like talk all the time, but I know that like we're here for each other and we really enjoy each other's presence and like want to see each other succeed. But I feel like most, like outside of those several friendships, like new friendships that I've made here, I feel like most are pretty superficial, or it's just like in passing, or it's just convenience, honestly. And that's where I kind of feel like the effort is not there on both parties.
But I even argue like those relationships are actually easy to like upkeep, like with the unconditional love part, because their expectation of you isn't as high as it would be of like someone you know more.
I can see that, but I feel like how I view unconditional love is kind of inverse. Like it, in a way, it feels like because I don't see them as much, it just like forget that.
Interesting.
They're not that they're there, but like that, like they might have a portion of my unconditional
I know what
love,
you mean.
which like maybe they don't even like, maybe I just, the tier of unconditional love that they have from me is just like, oh, you're a human or like an acquaintance or something.
Or like you just like my Instagram post kind of thing. No. I know what you mean. I'm like TBH, this is a thing I've been struggling with for a long time. Like I do feel some type of way when I can't like hang out with the roommates because I'm tired. Like like with you guys, I don't question as much like, oh my god, like do they still see me as like a good friend? Because no, I completely am okay.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm a little traumatized from like grad school when like I was like called like a bad friend. This is not like a pity party. I just like, this is my lived experience, and I'm just still struggling with the. So like again, going back to like the overarching theme of like, do we need God? I think like it's cool to have God, but you need to see where it fits in your life at the moment. I think eventually your life will fit God, but you're not going to go from 0 to 100 in just like even like 5 years. Biggest takeaway from this is like recognize that you still have your own life and what you're going through is very, very real. And you should never just like give it all away just because like God, you know? Like you're going to have your sad days, your angry days and whatnot. And I know like the Bible's always like, don't be angry because like it's okay to like be sad and angry and like be, you know, like live in your emotions, live in the present moment too.
Yeah.
It's a hard balance.
I think some verses that I really like are randomly just like popping into my head. I cannot recite them, but like the general vibe is that one that's like if you're like judging someone, address the plank in your eye before you like take out the splinter in someone else's. Just basically saying like, that's
insane. I've actually never heard that.
You haven't?
Are you sure it's a real verse?
Yes, I promise.
We'll pop it up on the screen.
There's also another verse I think is so funny. Or it was this passage that was saying like, this guy looked in the mirror and then like he forgot what he looked like and then he looked back again and he was like surprised or something like that. Okay,
what the fuck? I don't think that's I think that's an analogy you heard in church and not necessarily.
No, I remember reading it and being like, did I really just read this?
Okay, see, if I read that, I would have been like bars.
Anyways, yeah, like I think that has like been helpful to help me not judge other people as much or to like take responsibility of like, you know, myself or like keep it self-focused in a way. It's just like not worth the energy to like judge other people like that.
No, I totally get that.
I think another one that really helped me. Oh, the whole like, don't
Are
worry.
you gonna become a CG leader next year?
Oh hell no. Hell no. We're not on that track.
I'll be your I don't know what they call it, the second.
Or like the host.
Yeah.
Don't worry about anything because it doesn't add a second to your life. Just worry about today and then like tomorrow, whatever, stuff like that just is reassuring. Another thing that believing in God helps people with is like feeling a sense of life purpose. One of my friends that I've talked to, she is not Christian, but in college, she was one of my best friends. I remember we were talking about like, what does life mean? And I thought her answer was actually really interesting. She said that her life's purpose is to just like be there for the people in her life. So like her parents, her friends, whoever she interacts with in her life. I think her perspective is like everybody has people that they interact with. So like everyone has a responsibility to whoever they touch in their lives. And I think that's really beautiful too. Like I've kind of even adopted a little bit of that perspective too, even with the Christian tint. It's such a joy to like make other people's lives easier or like beneficial, just like be there and support each other. So I feel like as long as people have a sense of purpose.
Yeah, like truly it's do what works for you.
Yeah, because it's also like if somebody doesn't quote unquote need God, then
yeah, like if you don't need God, you're never gonna like understand the concept, like the experience of being a Christian.
Yeah,
because you don't need him, and that's okay.
Yeah,
like you're self-sufficient. Go you.
Yeah,
you know, that's okay. There's nothing wrong, or we're not trying to convert anyone here. This is just like Sarah and I are spiritually confused, but we're going through it. I hope that everyone's having a safe Halloween. Thank you for the support.
By the time this one comes out, it'll be like 3 weeks from Thanksgiving.
Please subscribe so we can pay our electric bill.
Dude, our electric bill keeps increasing every month. Okay, it's crazy because it started out, so there's 4 of us, right? And it started out as like $4 per person per month. And now it's at like $80 per person per month.
I was joking with my friend. She was like, how are you guys paying so little? Because she's paying about like $70-$80 for like her studio. And I'm like, oh, like it must be like in our rent. That's like we're paying so much for already. Aww. Now that it's catching up to us, I'm just like, fucking hell.
Wait a dang minute. I've heard, sorry, this is completely unrelated, but
back to the topic of God.
I've heard that if you don't change the temperature on your thing, it actually saves a lot of money because the high cost comes from having to turn it on and off all the time or like switching. So if you just keep it set at a certain temperature, it'll be fine. So like the first couple months when we were here, it was just set. But honestly, the past couple months where it's kind of been higher, there have been more like toggling involved.
I get that.
But I genuinely don't know if that's like really the reason.
Well, I mean, I think the bigger issue is that the weather keeps changing every 3 days.
Yeah.
Like, I agree. There's some days we need our heater. Like, I wake up and it's like fucking cold.
Wait, does your heater work?
No, I'm still on AC because my room is very hot in general.
Yeah,
like,
true.
thank God. Like, my AC actually feels a little more cooling now. And then it's cold and then like the heater's too hot. I mean, it's hot, then the heater's too hot, you know? So,
oh, jeez.
I don't know. I hope when the weather settles, it's a little better, but...
Sometimes I come out, it's like freezing in here.
No,
but that's why I
agree.
turned it up.
That's completely
lately. Fine. But now it's like 78 again, so.
Kind of crazy.
Well, thank you guys for listening and listening to our discombobulated spiritual journey. Wonder if any of you guys can relate.
This is not mean the church thinks like us. Us.
Yes.
I'm still going to be at CG every Tuesday. Sarah will be at CG every Tuesday.
And I'll try to make it to service one day.
Like this... We're just peoples with our thoughts, okay?
Yeah.
So if this offended you...
Don't.
That's crazy.
Don't be offended.
That was a very me response. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Advocate for yourself.
Yeah, these are our own opinions, and we're just trying our best. I don't know. We're like very fluid in this.
And if you decide to cancel us, that just means
also
our 103 subscriber podcast lives rent-free in your head. And that is on you, buddy.
Why are you so scared of getting canceled?
I'm maybe? No, I think it's because I know I'm like prone to being canceled.
Yeah, we say some really ratchet things.
But like, I feel like you're okay. You have more media training than I have.
Well, I try to edit out some things too. Thanks again. We'll catch you guys next week with that.
TTYL.